All right, well, I think we can go ahead and get started. So today's meeting, we're going to be talking about message templates. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. So when we hear message templates, this is kind of what makes, Lead Docket very interesting for a lot of firms because it's able to automate those follow-ups for your intake team. And when we mean automate, basically means that you taking an action as changing a status, it automates for that message to go out to that lead. So it helps you to minimize the amount of time that your intake team is typing out follow-ups, and is able to do it right away without having to, go in and type it in manually. Um, a lot of times people get confused though when we talk about native automations inside of Lead Docket. An action has to be done in order for those messages to go out. However, Lead Docket does have an option where it's an extra, but it's called automation rules, where you can have that those messages automate easier without having to maybe change a status. So that's something that we can talk on later on, but I just kind of wanted to let you know about the difference between those two. So the native automation in Lead Docket would be to where in action, your team has to manually change the status for those message templates, emails, and text messages to go out. So I want to show you a little bit of where those are at inside of Lead Docket, how you can customize them, and then also go over the difference between a message template and a message snippet. So where you'll find those is under Manage, and then we're going to go to Message Templates. Let me minimize my screen right here. Perfect. So as you can see, this is our testing environment. So we have lots of testing message templates, but anytime you want to set up a message template, and this would be when, again, an action has to be done in order for that message to go out. So we would have to update a status and then that message will go out. We can go into add new right here and we can select, do we want to set up an email or a text message? So we can just go ahead and do an email. So this is our first choice here. And this is what you're going to see on your screen. So the title is just something that you see on your end, the title of that message email, not necessarily what the user or the lead is going to say on their end. What they're going to see on their end is going to be that subject template. So just basically how you have like a subject line in an email, that's what they're going to be able to see. A few things to note on this is if we wanted to set up a message to where it says, my firm name. So instead of typing it, it gives me this area to where I can add merge codes where it will merge my firm's name into this template. So you don't necessarily have to add the firm's name. You can just add, this code to where it will automate the name of the firm. So a lot of times it's mostly used when it's like, intake specialist. So if you want for that subject line to have the intake specialist name that's reaching out, you can again come in here and add that intake specialist name merge code for it to populate in that subject line. So let me just go ahead and type something here. Perfect. And then the message template here in this box would be kind of the body of your email. So whatever you want to be able to add into that email body paragraph, you would add it there. And then as you can see, we also have this second additional field so we can insert merge code. So if we want to insert the case type into that body of that email, or if we want to insert the attorney's name that's going to be maybe assigned to their case, or the intake email for them to be able to reach back out to, those are all fields that we can add codes to based on this drop down to where it will auto populate it in that message. Another option that we have is widgets. So the widgets, you have a few options here. So the widget would be where you can add, if you have the lead forms. So lead forms is a new thing that you have now in Lead Docket where you can create forms for your lead to fill out. So instead of going inside of the lead and sending that lead form, you can add a widget to where in the body of your email, it includes a link or an invitation to fill out that lead form. So it wouldn't have to be like a separate step you would have to do. You can just include it as a widget inside of that body of the text, and it'll be able to populate for that person to fill that lead form. Same thing. If you need like a Calendly, so if you have that set up on your lead docket, you can set it up so where it sends them the link on the body of the email saying, thank you for reaching out to schedule a free consultation with one of our attorneys. Please select the link and schedule an appointment. So they can click that link. It'll take them to the Calendly page for them to be able to select the appointment time and date, and they want to update it on your system. So it'll be able to update it to the schedule status inside of Lead Docket. So we see a lot of people that use that, and it's very neat because it's included in the body of an email or text message. Ivan, anything you would like to add that I might have missed?
No, this is a great review. Makes a lot
Awesome.
of sense.
Perfect. So then we also have this attachment where you can basically attach a file. I do want to make you aware of something though. In the attachment, you're not able to add merge code. So if you have a document, let's say sometimes people want to add the welcome letter as an attachment. We can definitely do it, but it has to be a general letter because it's not able to pull in codes from your lead docket to basically put in the client's name in that attachment or put in the date of incident and additional codes that you might want in that letter. It's not able to if you add it as an attachment here. So let's just always make sure that's more of a general letter that's going to go out, because again, it's going to go out to different people and it's not going to be personalized specifically for the lead.
Yeah. I want to add one thing in there I've seen done well, and we actually played with this recently, where you can send a video or like one of those welcome videos for your firm that you may have, or you can have even an image that is like maybe an introduction, something you will post on social media about your firm. I've seen a firm do like a kind of how to, what you expect out of a personal injury case, like an infographic, and it had like some things to instruct the client that are helpful. The difference between that and putting a link to a video is just that pulls up in directly inside the email. In this case, the email, if you want to send it as a text message, I will be more careful with videos and images because there's a limit to the size of the video that you can send. If you're doing text message, which we tested recently, that you can actually send a small video. It has to be very small, and it will pull up in the text message thread so they can watch right in there, right? We've always seen a little bit of firms who use links to YouTube, which is a great way to do that. Like, so you're sending a message and then you put a link. If you want to know more about our firm, click here. And then there's a link to your YouTube video or something about that, about the firm. That's great. But that's also like a click and then it goes to somebody else. So some people are not going to click on it. So to increase the response rate and for people to view that video, we try to put something of an image directly into that message or a video directly into that message. So there's ways that you can get creative with this to improve the engagement, right? These are such a powerful thing, but that language needs to be like the way you tweak that language, the way you reach out. There's a lot that can be optimized in there. It's not just right. Oh, thank you for calling us. Please call us back. Right. It may not, there's a lot that you can do to finesse language. Do you put an image? Do you put a link? What is it in there? So this is like a really interesting area.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm glad you touched on that, Ivan, because a lot of times when you first get Lead Docket and set it up, the system comes with already messages for you that you can customize. Some firms leave it as is, some firms customize a little bit more, but I always recommend firms to customize it. So it can make a difference when you reach out to a lead and they can know a little bit more about what you offer. If you are a PI firm, make sure you include that you offer free consultations on your follow-ups, on your chase messages, so that that person knows they don't have to pay a fee to talk to an attorney. It's free at no cost to them. So my suggestion is always, come in, optimize your email templates, text messages to kind of reflect your practice area and what you offer, and make it more personable for that lead. You don't want to just sound very bare bones and say, please give us a call back or reply yes to this text message. You want to personalize them a lot more than that. So I'm glad you touched base on that.
Yeah. I think that's where we get to like advanced uses of Lead Docket, right? So I think what Edie's saying is all really great basic information. Once you nail this down, like once you understand what she's saying, then you can build on it and really like get granular with it. So
Right, absolutely. Yeah, this is just kind of like the basics on how to set it up, and then you can definitely get a lot more creative and customize those messages. So today we're just going to go over the basics on how to do that, and what these features are and what they're able to offer you. So now we go to creation rules. So this basically means, okay, what is going to, when are these messages going to show up? So you can select the status that you want this message to go out. So if it's a chase or follow up, we would put it under the chase status. If it's an email that you want to send during this the schedule status, then you would select the status that you want it. So for this one, I'm just going to do chase, and then here when you want it to go out. So whether you want to go out on that first attempt, second attempt, third attempt, or final attempt. Now, this is specifically, I really like this case type drop down, because sometimes you might handle different practice areas. So we have some firms that handle PI, but also might handle criminal. So you don't want to have the same language, especially if you're offering customizing those messages to say free consultation for your criminal cases. So here you would select, okay, at what case type do I want these text messages to automate? So you're able to select whether it's PI, meta-mal, criminal, or whatever your case types practice areas are. Then we also have the severity level. So you might want to customize your messages so that if it's a very, case that you really want to sign up, maybe your language is different for those chase messages. And again, I'm using chase as an example, but you can customize messages to go out whenever throughout the intake process. So that's an option too. And then we have offices. So if you have several offices, that's an option that you can select. And the other ones are pretty self-explanatory on the marketing source and the opportunity source. One that I honestly really like, and this is for myself as a Spanish speaker, is the language one. And the reason why is because obviously we want to be able to have messages for that Spanish leads that we have coming in, or maybe Portuguese. So we want to make sure that our messages are set up in Spanish. So if that's an option, if you have someone on your team that can translate those message templates for follow-ups, for requesting documents, we want to make sure that they're translated, in their language. And how this would work is, once we set up the template, so let's say we select Spanish, when you go and add the lead and you choose their language as Spanish, that's the message template that will auto generate. The English one, you will not see it. You will only see the Spanish version of that. So that's super beneficial to be able to do outreach to that specific community. So I think that's a great one to be able to kind of look at your messages and optimize to make sure that you definitely have something to be able to reach that specific group of people.
And Edie, it might be worth just mentioning, I don't know if you go to your Lead Docket and you don't see the language, Spanish show up, because by default, if you got Lead Docket, it won't have that enabled. So if you do have Spanish speakers and you may not even know how to do that, it is showing right now, you would want to go to the manage section, to the settings, and there is a place inside there where you can add this languages. And what that does is it adds those languages to the drop down in the message templates, but also right there on the intake when you're doing a new language, yeah, it will have that language spoken in there. I think, I don't know, Edie, can't recall right now if you delete all the languages. I don't think it even asks the language spoken in here. I'm not sure.
No, I do know though that if you add just Spanish and
Yeah.
not English, your English will not show up.
Oh, okay. Interesting to know. All
Yep.
right.
So just be aware of that, right? So if
But
you
English in there as well. Okay.
yeah, so make sure you add all the ones that you're going to be handling, not just assume that it's going to automatically choose English for you.
And that's a really like key feature that people sometimes forget, that by selecting those languages and by using this in combination with the message templates that Edie was saying, that's how you can always reach out to Spanish speaking clients in Spanish, English in English, and so on, right? That's how Lead Docket will be able to route them and not have like send an English message to a Spanish speaker. So
Hmm.
that's why that's important in there.
Yes. Awesome.
And you mentioned also a little bit of severity level up top, like the severity level of a case.
Hmm.
I want to say that I think that's one of the filters or the criteria for message templates that people overlook.
Yeah.
And using that, you can select like a lot of different messages depending on the severity. Like there are certain leads that you don't want to chase too much, but there's certain leads that you may want to chase a little bit more. Or so using severity level in combination with the message templates, I think is a super powerful thing that people sometimes don't pay attention to.
Yes, that's correct.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. So now we go into triggers. This is the trickiest part, in my opinion. I don't know if Ivan would agree. But this is basically telling the system when does this message needs to be created. So is it when I create the lead? Is it when I change the status or when I change the sub status? So when am I going to be able, or when does the system need to be able to create this message template? And then the delete triggers is when does it need to be deleted? So when this action happens, that message will no longer be automated or going out to the leads. So sometimes you have different triggers that you can select from. So let's say you want a message to go out when a document is sent, or maybe you want a message going out saying, hey, please send me this information once you sign your document. So you would create that trigger when the document is received. So when you receive it, you want that message to go out to that lead saying, hey, we received your documentation. Here are the next steps, right? So that would be your trigger. Create it once that document is received. And then the delete trigger, once I change the status, you can delete that. So that message is no longer going to be going out to that lead. So a lot of times it might take a few playing around with the statuses or with the triggers to get them correctly. But just know this first one is when it gets created. And then the second one, delete one, is when when you take that action, that message template's no longer automated. And now sending. So this is, you know, who you want to send this message to. So whether you want to send it to the lead, which is known as the client here in Lead Docket, or if you want to send it to the referred to firm or referred by. Referred to is the firm that you're referring it out to, and then the referred by is the one that referred you that case. So if you want to maybe this message template set up for you to give updates to that referred from firm, then you would obviously select it to go out to that referred firm. Then layout, basically, pretty self-explanatory. If you want the logo to be included in that email template, or if you want it to be plain without the logo. And then the referral status update with lead sources with lead details. Ivan, do you have, I haven't used this one before. Have you used this layout before?
Yeah. This is I think this is helpful for a couple of scenarios that I would say. First is there's a common scenario where law firms are trying to reach out to the referral partners, not to the client. So if you change the send to instead of client on the other box to the left and put it to referred firm, yeah. So you send out a referral to them and you want them to give you a status update. That's where you would use that layout. And this is a common thing for firms that refer out a lot of leads. So I sent, 100 leads for Eydi law firm, and I want to follow up and say, like, how is it going? Where are my leads? Like, so I've seen a lot of these message templates be set up like 6 months later, send, a request for status update, or 9 months later, send a request for another update. And then you would use that layout because it has a nice way for them to give you a button and take you to the referral dashboard. It's a really neat kind of addition there.
Okay, so anytime that you have message templates set up to go out to that referral firm, then we would have to select that specific
You want to
layout.
use that layout. Yeah, you want to use the layout. And it's a good layout for that. Exactly right.
And then we have the send from. So this one, again, if you want for it to always say this intake specialist or this attorney, based on the one that you select on your new lead, when you create that lead, that's who the message is going to go out from. So it's going to say that's, Eydi Hughes as intake specialist sent out this message template, or the attorney, paralegal, whatever their role is. But if you want for that message to always say, from this user. So let's say if you have a paralegal that only handles referrals, right? You want to make sure that she's always the one that is selected as the person that's sending that is sending basically that message. Now, if you would like to send obviously a copy to the sender, you can select yes or no, or if you want additional emails to be CC in that message template, you would, add their emails here. Now, when is basically when the trigger happens. So when do you want this message to go out? Do you want it to go out immediately once you change the status? Or do you want it to go, this many minutes from now, this many days? So this is when do you want this email or text message to be created and sent out to the lead. And then this review message before sending. So this one's an important one. This one is basically it lets you approve it before it goes out. So it's automated, but not totally automated because you still have to approve it. Sometimes when we see this happen is when you have a message, let's say you're asking for a Google review, right? And you don't want to send that Google review link to all of your leads, maybe only to specific ones. So you want to make sure that your team is reviewing who it goes to before it goes out to that lead, if that makes sense.
I think that's a good uses for that might be worth mentioning are like rejection letters. I've seen that used, right? So what are some examples that you've seen that used?
Definitely the rejection letters. That's a big one. Let me see. The Google reviews. Sometimes also if you are requesting some documentation, right? They want to be able, if that lead has already provided that information, they don't want to sound like, hey, I wasn't listening to you earlier. Now I'm requesting these documents again. I'm, reviewing it. So you're reviewing these messages before they go out just to make sure that nothing that you've already received is being requested in that message template. So that's another use of it.
That's right. That's good.
Awesome. So these are all the features that we have when setting up, email or text messages. Now, the second part of this webinar is message snippets. So what's the difference between a message snippet and a message template? So the message snippets are a little bit, they're similar, but they're different in a sense that you have to basically select the message template or the message snippet that you want it to go out. So as you can see here, we have these message snippets that have been already add it to our system. So very easy, very similar on how to add those. You would just go to add new and basically add the title and the message. Let me just go one to that's already added here in our system. So we have one asking for pictures of your vehicle. So we have it as a message template, and then we have here this message template prompt. So I'm the intake person, am asking this purchase to send me photos. Now, again, it might be that I don't need to send this to every single lead every single time, and it's just specific to who I'm talking to. So I don't want to automate it so that it goes out to everyone. I want to be able to select it and then remove all that manual work that's going to take me to type out that message. Again, you have the options here to add merge codes, and you have the option to add, for which case types you want it to show up to, language, and then status. So how these message snippets look are, let me just go to this one here, messages. Oh, this one's not a good one. Peter Parker, let's see. Let me look. Which one's the one that you guys use a lot, Ivan, the lead?
Peter Parker is a good one, or Ivan. Yeah, that one.
Got it.
That one is.
I remember this one. Awesome. So when I go to syntax, as you can see, I have now this drop down that says message snippets, and I'm able to see all the message snippets that I have. When I select that title of that message snippet, it prompts that message for me. So again, it removes all the manual work for you, but you still have to come in and select the message that you would like to go out. So again, this is another way that you can use that request for documentation. If you've already been on the phone with the lead and have requested all these documents, you might not want to automate and set up a message template for that, but you want to set up maybe a message snippet so that you do have the option to send it to those leads that you weren't able to maybe receive those documents or get those pictures from. You would have a message snippet where you could quickly go and select it and then send it.
I'm a big proponent of message snippets.
Ivan loves message snippets.
I think people do not use it as well. Like, I know some firms who love it, like especially the intake team. So if your intake team has like a Word document where they keep their messages saved and they like copy and paste, I often see this, like, oh, I have some, some Word document, and I keep my messages in there, and then I copy and paste them into Lead Docket. They shouldn't. They should be using message snippets, and you can even use like attachments and certain things, variables in the message snippets. So I think firms should use it. Use it more. It's a great tool. It's a great tool. So I'm on a quest to get people to use message snippets more often.
That's right. Does anyone have any questions? I feel like me and Ivan have talked the whole time. I haven't even checked the
Yeah.
messages, but Derek, do you have any questions? Does anyone have any questions on how to use message snippets? Any of the triggers, what they mean, how to set them up?
I think you did a great job, and there's no questions. Is it a really good job or not a good job? I don't know, but it was pretty explanatory. It's Edie. I think it's pretty good. We'll give it a couple of minutes, but if people have no questions, again, this is available later on for them to watch. So I think it was a pretty good walkthrough of the message templates. Anything else that we didn't cover, or any other notes around that we may want to touch on? I think you covered a lot.
Yeah.
I do feel like this is a really powerful part of Lead Docket, and people should take advantage and really customize them. And one other thing that I often recommend clients do is test it. Like, get this 1 week, go into your chase messages and change the language of that chase message. Maybe make it more informal, or make it something that is like easier, relatable, or something. Watch how that works for about a week. see if the response increases. Go back in there, change it to a more formal approach, and see how that works as well. So definitely, I think there's room, and it's very easy to play with and test it out. Now I have a question from Derek. Hey, Derek. Okay, so he says, when we refer our cases to other firms, is it possible to make any notes, messages coming back from that firm to always go to the same person on our intake team instead of who sent the referral? Oh, good question. Because you may have like one person on your intake team that handles all referrals. We often see like, oh, this is the one person and she's the referral manager or something like that. So you want that person to receive all the messages back from a referral firm.
We could possibly do it from selecting that user.
Yes, so, but that is the user that goes out from. So if you put them as the user that goes out, they will get the message back. That's a good idea. So Derek, I don't know if you can pull it up, Edie, if you have that back, if your lead docket back. In the message template, you can select who sends that message. Oh, look at the little guy. So in the message template, you can select who did it goes out from. So send from, no,
Sorry, let me pull
you're in a text, I think. You're in a text one, yeah. So that's it. Send from a user. So that way that message always goes out from that specific user. Now, I'm not entirely sure, Edie, what happens if the firm replies. It goes into the lead. I wonder if it copies that user email as well. But I had another idea, Derek, about it. If you have one person managing all of your referrals, you can consider adding a referral role to your lead docket. And especially if you're growing. Because if you're growing and maybe now you have one person, but a few months from now, you may have two people handling your referrals. So you should consider adding a custom role, which doesn't hurt anything in your lead docket. You go to manage roles, add a role of like referral coordinator or referral manager, whatever you want to call that role. And that way, you only make that role appear on referred out cases. And the reason is then every referred out case, let's say Edie is our referral coordinator. Every case that I refer out, Edie gets assigned to that lead, to that referral. We can even make that like default into that user. So that way they don't have to be clicking it. So it defaults into that user. And that way that user gets a notification every time there's any action specific to those leads that are referred out. So not just the messages out, but notes, settlements, documents, and things like this, they all can report easier on it. And there's a lot better kind of visibility into those leads. I hope that makes sense into what I'm saying. I know it goes beyond the message templates. It's more of like how to manage your referrals when you have one person that is responsible for them. And I would recommend a role specifically to that. I hope that gives some clarity to it. Okay. Anything else, Edie?
Yeah,
Think we got it, right?
I think so.
Okay. Okay. All right, then. I think we can wrap this up.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Well, Derek, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
We'll hope to see you next time. And then for anyone who missed this session, feel free just to, like Ivan mentioned earlier, it's going to be recorded, so you can look it up. It will be posted on our LinkedIn page and YouTube. And then also don't forget that we do have a LinkedIn page for you to ask any questions. So feel free to follow that page, post your questions. Doesn't matter, what it's in regards to. We have several people that are lead docket experts that can hop in and help you at any time. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Edie. Bye-bye.